Are you ready to get that cool grandpa an exciting gift? That exciting gift could be getting all those grandkids together on a remote call and having me interview them, draw out fascinating stories, dive into perspectives that they have over activities that their cool grandpa has had with them. It can also be a way that you guys can get together, take a snapshot in time of just how your family is interacting and just how that cool grandpa has influenced the family. If you'd like to learn more about this potential cool and exciting gift, go to www.cool-grandpa.us. Look on the link on my website titled Your Personal Podcast Offer. Click on it and then check it out. This podcast offer is something that is ready to go, and all we need to do is have you contact me. You can contact me at greg@cool-grandpa.com. So what are you waiting for? This is going to be a fabulous gift for that cool grandpa. I look forward to talking to you. Hello, and welcome to the Cool Grandpa Podcast. This is your host, Greg Payne, coming at you from Studio 12. This podcast is about being the best possible grandpa you can be, focusing on what it is to be a grandpa and how we can all share that experience together for our grandchildren. Hey, this podcast is going to be a little bit different. I am actually not interviewing anybody. I am providing you guys a little State of the Union address. We've been 14 episodes in together, and I thank you so much. We've had over 500 downloads, which isn't bad for a little podcast about grandpas. One thing I do want to let you guys know, a couple of updates about the website and podcast, is that I have now added an application called SpeakPipe to my website. So when you go to my website, www.cool-grandpa.us, what you're going to see is on the right-hand side a little tab that says Send a Voicemail. All you got to do is click on that. That'll prompt you to record a short message, and I will receive that message. So let me know what kind of topics you like. Let me know what kind of formats you guys are enjoying, and just use it to say hi. That would be kind of cool. The other thing I want to talk to you guys about is I am now on SoundCloud. And so if you listen to podcasts on SoundCloud or know anybody that listens to podcasts on SoundCloud, I am up on that, and I am working to be in the queue. So when Amazon and Audible go live with their podcast offerings, that this podcast is going to be located over there as well. So as folks start to stay on Audible for books and podcasts and all sorts of things going on over there, you're going to be able to find the Cool Grandpa Podcast over there. Also wanted to give a shout out to a couple of people that have been absolutely awesome that I've met and contacted over the last couple of weeks. I have talked first to a gentleman called Steve Owens. Steve Owens has a podcast called Fascination Street. Fascination Street is absolutely mind-blowing. It's a great podcast. He's podcast and has been doing this for a number of years now. He has interviewed people like Clint Howard. He has interviewed all the folks, if you like Adam Carolla's show. He's interviewed all the folks that helped make that happen. He's interviewed Elaine Palance as one of the more recent episodes. Elaine Palance is the widow of actor Jack Palance. The premise of Steve's podcast is just talking to fascinating people and being an awesome interviewer. So you're going to meet some just fantastic people. Some of those folks are people that you know, and some of them are people that you don't know, but you'll get to know them. And so that's fantastic. Dean Showalter is a gentleman that I've met through Dan Miller's 48 Days community. Dean Showalter has a podcast called Airplane Owner Maintenance. Now, you may not own an airplane, you may not work on airplanes, but if you're interested in aviation, this is a cool little podcast to be listening to. Dean works on all sorts of piston aircraft, and it works on new, old stuff, and has some interesting stories within his podcast. So if you know anybody that's an airplane enthusiast that might own their own aircraft or works on aircraft, please, please, please share Dean's podcast with them. I will be putting links to Fascination Street and to Airplane Owner Maintenance Podcast in the show notes. So it'll be easy to find when you click over to my website, www.cool-grandpa.com. You'll be able to go into this episode and you'll be able to find the links to both of those guys and their podcasts. So what I wanted to do is give you guys a little bit of a trip report. I recently got back from about 6 weeks out in Portland, Oregon, doing some personal work out there, and came back and immediately took off and went up to see my brand new granddaughter. In mid-August, I had grandchild number 2, a little girl, and that was absolutely fantastic to get up to go see her and celebrate her birth and check on my daughter-in-law and my son, make sure they're all good, everything's working out the way it should. So the kids are not getting any sleep. The kids are over the moon and antsy and have anxiety, typical new parent stuff going on. So me and my wife were able to sit back, chuckle a little bit about their experience and their learning. Boy, I can tell you, this little girl has just totally made grandma's day. So one thing I will, that I was warned about, maybe not warned, but foretold about with Dean Nielsen, interview number 2. So if you want to listen to Dean's interview, go back to episode 2. He all about little girls. One thing that quickly became apparent is that although I was allowed to hold my granddaughter and that was great, it was all about grandma time. Grandma's making sure the head dressings were just right. Everything was just so. Grandma was just cuddling and holding that little baby, and you know what? I was perfectly fine with that. I think sometimes grandpas, we need to just recognize that, hey, we get our time with the grandchild, especially when they're brand new, and that's awesome. But there's something special that just jumps in there with grandmas and those little newborn babies. And it's not that I, gave up anything for that experience for my wife to have, but it was more or less that I just recognized that, hey, this is a special time, and grandmas and brand new little girls and little boys have that special moment. So that was great. One thing that I was able to do too was hang out and play around a little bit more with my grandson, who's 2 years old now. We sat down and had his annual performance review, and by and large, he's doing well. We've decided to keep him on in the family. He's got some things to work on, primarily, circling around language skills, business acumen, some things like that. He's also prone to throwing tantrums, especially when he's tired. So I had to have, a stern little discussion with him on that it's not very professional to grab Thomas the Train and start shaking Thomas the Train all about and, kind of smashing him on the table when you hear that it's time to go down for a nap. It's just not professional. I mean, if we had customers or guests or anybody in the house, I mean, geez, how would that look? Little 2-year-old throwing a tantrum about going to bed. So as much as, I'd like to give him straight fives across the evaluation. I just couldn't do it. As a grandpa, I thought that would be irresponsible of me. So he does have fives, 5 being the highest rating on appetite. He does have fives on cuddling. Anyway, he will get up and he will be a bit of a cuddler. He does have fives, on dressing, grooming. Although I really think that has more to do with his mom than him. But his outfits were matching, so that was all good. But I decided to give him fives on that. So one thing we are going to be working on is the tantrums at nap time and also sleeping time. One other area of concern that I brought up is that for some reason he loves to hug the dog's butt. I'm not sure what that is. But when he's going up and showing love for the dog in the house or for his uncle's dog, for some reason, there's a lot of hugging of the hindquarters. I don't get it, but we did mark that down for something to improve on. So when his third annual evaluation comes around, I'll be sure to let you guys know how he's improved on that. Some of the things that we definitely have been learning as we've taken trips up and have seen the kids and multiple grandkids at this point is that, moms and grandmas are great at story time, at working on tasks, at, doing a lot of different activities with the grandson. But when it comes time for roughhousing, when it comes time for, let's say, doing boy stuff, that's when Grandpa gets to shine. I love the fact that he likes to come and charge right at me when I'm on the ground, trying to knock me over, trying to wrestle around with me. He's getting to the point where he's not quite there, but I foresee in the near future that he's going to start having flying elbows coming off of the couch, which is, I'm going to have 2 reactions. One is, oh, dear God, he's going to hurt me. And the other one is, I'm super proud and can't wait to show him some Macho Man Randy Savage highlight clips. So little mixed things there, but definitely noticing that, like I said, story times aren't exclusively grandma, aren't exclusively grandpa, but there's definitely times where, grandma can step in and have meaningful relationships with the little boy, and there are times where grandpa can step in and have all sorts of fun and activities with that little boy. So that's a great lesson learned. One thing that I do want to make sure that everybody is getting is that this podcast is really supposed to be a 3-way conversation. Conversation experience, maybe, is the better word. And what I mean by that is I really want this podcast, if I'm interviewing somebody, for the 3 of us to feel like we're sitting around an outdoor cafe table. Having a cup of tea, having a cup of coffee, enjoying a Coke, enjoying a sunny day. What you're hearing is 2 friends or 2 new friends learning from each other, talking about their experiences of being a grandfather, talking about experiences of how much grandfathers have meant to them. So if that's not coming across in this podcast and you're not getting the feeling that, hey, we've got a chair here for you and you're sitting in and listening to a couple of people gabbing and you're not enjoying it. What I want you to do is go to the website, click on that speak pipe, leave me a message, tell me you're not getting it, and provide me that feedback. The other great way to hear from you is shoot me an email. My email address is greg@cool-grandpa.com. And again, let me know. If you're not feeling like you're the third party in this experience, I want to hear from you, and I want to hear some suggestions on how I can make sure that happens for you, how you feel like you're a part of this whole thing. that you're listening in and you're enjoying the conversation amongst friends. Now, the other part too that I want to share with you is just another few experiences that I've had about my grandfather. I did not know my grandfather on my father's side. He passed away when I was a couple of years old. He had divorced my grandmother prior to when I was born, moved down, and passed away, I think, Chula Vista, California, outside of San Diego. So I never knew him, and honestly, I don't feel like I missed much. The stories that I heard growing up about how he treated my father, how he treated my grandmother, honestly, I don't feel like I missed anything, and I'm probably better off for not knowing that guy. The other guy who had meant so much to me is my grandpa Ashby. If you hang on a minute, I'm grabbing a picture of my grandpa Ashby to put in front of me. That just helps me remember him. You know, some of the experiences with that cool grandpa Ashby, I've got so many. It's unreal. So some of the favorite ones that I have of Grandpa Ashby is when me and my siblings would go out to Eastern Oregon. They're on the Snake River west of Boise, Idaho. Grandpa would pack us up in a camper that he had on his old Dodge truck. And sometimes we would just go over to the reservoir close by and camp and play at the lake and you know, not too far away. I think it's an hour plus away. But sometimes he would pack us up and we would end up way up in the mountains in Idaho, where he would take us and try to teach us how to do trout fishing and camping. And my grandma would be there and she would be cooking up on the stove inside the camper and doing, you know, ham and eggs. And, you know, you had more kids running around than you could shake a stick at. And he would just spend that time with us and, you know, really give us an experience. You know, Grandpa gave me a lot of things, but experience and time is the thing that he shared with me the most. You know, I would get presents from him from time to time, or when I was out there, and I'd be out there for a few weeks, maybe we'd go get a model airplane that would help keep me busy when I was at the farm. But him taking the time to go and purchase a camper, get that camper all set up, get the propane filled up, get the fishing rods down, get the, you know, sleeping bags, get the quilts, get the blankets, get everything ready, coolers full of food, and then haul me, my siblings, my mom, and sometimes my dad up into those mountains was absolutely fantastic. Couldn't ask for a better time. We went to these places that had these hot springs, and there were swimming pools, but there are hot springs swimming pools, which was completely unique for kids that were growing up on the East Coast. This idea that you go out to these mountains and you've got these big places and you've got these big hot pools. So even during the summer when it was cool in the evenings and cool during the day, you had these water temperatures where you'd need to get out after a little while. It was just fantastic. The other thing too that my cool grandpa always did was he always looked out after my mom. He always, when he would come into town, especially as my mom and dad were separating and then divorced, he was always doing projects at the house. He would come out with my grandma and they would stay for a couple of weeks, and he would either, put up a wall in the house or take down a wall in the house. I mean, this guy built my brother a 12-foot quarter pipe ramp for my brother to ride his BMX trick bike on. You know, My grandfather didn't have to do that. My brother basically just got a hold of the lumber and the wood, and then he and my grandfather sat out there, cut the lumber, bent everything into shape around the frame of the ramp, put the wheels and things on it so that it could be wheeled up and down the driveway. My brother was the only person I knew that had his own 12-foot quarter pipe ramp, not only in the neighborhood, but like in the high school. And so kids from all over would be coming over and riding that ramp and doing that. And that was all because, my grandfather helped my brother out, took the time and took his skills and everything that he learned on the farm, did that incredibly cool thing. To my grandfather, that had to have made little to no sense. It had to have been one of these cases of, you just spent all this money on perfectly good plywood, 2x4s, all these bolts, all these screws, everything else that went into making that ramp, and then being able to take it down into parts so that it could be stored. He was all in. He just dove in and was like, you know what? This is going to make this kid happy. I've got the skills to do it. And he and my brother just jumped in with circular saws and drills and hammers and nails and screws and everything else and built this ramp. And man, the thing was is that ramp gave my brother an escape when things got tense around the house or when he just wanted fun. That was kind of an escape for my brother, so that he could go ride that ramp. And it was a ramp that he and my grandpa built together. Now, we're getting close to Thanksgiving time, so I want to tell you a little story about my grandpa around Thanksgiving time. Now, going to my grandfather's for Thanksgiving in Eastern Oregon in late November for Thanksgiving is great. Wanted to see my grandpa, wanted to visit with him, wanted to hang out with grandma, wanted to, be part of the family, check in with them. My brother and I are both in our early mid-20s at this point. We go out there, and again, guys, come on. There's not a lot to do for a farm in the wintertime in Eastern Oregon. There's a lot of preparation. There's a lot of, I'm not even sure when pheasant season stops or starts, but, I know it's not pheasant season. And I know we don't have our own shotguns and everything to go do that, but we do have some shotguns at the farm. We do have some things to do. So we're kind of bored. My brother and I were talking about wanting to go get a box of skeet, grab my grandfather's shotgun, grab the 12-gauge shells, and what we were going to do is just go out and get a little hand chucker and throw those the discs out there into the field and try to shoot them. So my grandfather said, hold on. He, behind his shop, had a mountain of junk, just like any good farmer does. Anybody that's a farmer that's been on a farm, whatever, there's a whole junk pile out there. It's got scrap lumber. It has scrap, you name it, metal. It has old busted, lawnmowers out there. It's got old busted whatever. It's it's essentially a trash pile, but it's a trash pile of things that farmers can find useful. If they need a piece of metal to make a brace, they go out to the junk pile and they cut off a piece, or they find a piece that matches and then they, just weld it into place, screw it into place, whatever they need to do. Take out the duct tape and baling wire and make it work. So that's one man's junk pile is another person's, resources. But anyway, my grandfather goes out there and he says, hold on. You don't need to run into the buy-low and, or go down to the co-op and get a box of clay birds and a chuck it and just go out if you're just looking to shoot for a little while. So what I'll do is I'm going to stand behind the barn. You guys yell pull, and then I'm just going to throw stuff out. Okay. I worked for 6 years at a Boy Scout rifle range. I was a NRA certified rifle and shotgun black powder instructor. And yeah, my spider senses were going off. But then I was also 20. And I figure I'm not going to shoot Grandpa's arm. I know where the barn is. I know where he's going to be chucking it out into the garden. So yeah, me and my brother, we shot tin cans, we shot plastic buckets, we shot hubcaps, we shot everything that my grandfather could lay his hands on to throw out from behind his workshop. And that was hilarious. That was also the year too. My brother and I, Barney was in full swing, folks, and I'm not proud to say it, but it still brings a smile to my face. My brother and I bought a couple of Barneys from probably Kmart at the time, and sat him out on the fence post, and we shot up Barney good. It's just one of those memories that I remember. It was unique. I mean, not many people are going to be able to have a memory in their head of this, seeing this arm with this kind of a cream colored jacket come flying out from behind the work shed with a bucket flying into the air, and then trying to shoot that bucket with a 12 gauge shotgun. I'm not sure how good my brother and I were with that, but man, that sure was fun. And, my grandpa just didn't want to see us waste money to buy stuff to shoot when there was a whole big pile that was probably 20 feet wide by 10 to 12 feet tall, full of junk that was sitting in this junk pile that could just be shot just as easily with a shotgun by a couple of 20-year-olds. That's kind of my fascinating story, interesting little nugget and memory of my very, very cool grandfather, Walter Ashby. So as this Thanksgiving comes up, I'm sure that memory is going to reappear on my mind just as it does almost every year. I hope you guys enjoyed this little chat. I know you've got to get going, and I've got to get going and get home, cook up some dinner. I hope to see you back here again soon. Oh, before you go, the next time that you're going to hear an interview, I'm going to be talking to a very cool grandpa about Halloween safety and about activities that grandpas can do with their grandkids. This COVID thing has got everything all jacked up. So I know it's going to be difficult on kids. I know it's going to throw a monkey wrench in so many different activities and traditions that family have around Halloween. But I want you guys to know is I've reached out to somebody who has won multiple national home haunt awards, somebody that is presented in all sorts of haunt conventions, who has all sorts of bona fides when it comes to creepy crawly things around. And I'm not talking the gory side of it. I'm talking the fun, cool, make up your own little fun tombstone kind of thing, make up your own little monster, all sorts of little activities that cool grandpas and kids can do this Halloween. And just some tips and tricks on being safe. And next year, when Halloween's back in full swing and you got home haunts that are back up and running, you're going to be prepared with some things that you ought to keep an eye out for as far as safety with those little ones. So until next time, be cool, be awesome, and above all, just love everybody that you're coming in contact with, guys, because we're all just trying to do the best we can. Thank you for listening to the Cool Grandpa Podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please do me a favor and share it with a friend. That's the best way you can help us to expand our community, as well as get the news out about how valuable grandpas are in the lives of those kids. If you'd like to leave me a comment or shoot me a potential topic for this podcast, please go to www.cool-grandpa.us. Look for the comments tab, fill it out, hit submit. It's as easy as that. Until next time, remember to stay cool.